Well, hello everybody, and welcome to me. This is Slim Overton here, and just wanted to come on and talk about this here in Portsmouth, Virginia. Okay, lost the feed there for a minute. Still live here. Well, here in Portsmouth, Virginia, uh, this weekend we get ready to celebrate Juneteenth on the 19th, of course, and the weekend also is included our annual ship sale, which is the entering of the tall ships, which is also a tradition in the city of Portsmouth here in Virginia, and Harborfest between the cities of Portsmouth and Norfolk, separated or divided by the Elizabeth River. Um, so both sides will be having events for this particular weekend, and it's always been some controversy behind the Harborfest name and people, and it being associated this year with Juneteenth. It was some talk about what Harborfest was or meant was when uh, they brought slaves down the Elizabeth River and was like a festival on the harbor to bringing in slaves to the city, Portsmouth and Norfolk and other areas up and down in the area, other locations in the area. And, and I looked it up, and because Harborfest was really formed in 1976 by the cities as a celebration of the tall ships and the historic significance of the Elizabeth River towards both cities, Portsmouth and Norfolk. And they um, collectively had, on both sides of the river, events. And so some of the things that people were saying about how Fest was formed to celebrate the bringing of the slaves in here, looking it up, some historic and historians say it wasn't true. Um, at least for what was presented in 1976 as Harbor Fest. But they did say that there is a history going all the way back to the slavery days, where they did bring in slaves in the harbor, in that harbor, to the city of Portsmouth, particularly Virginia, and but it wasn't formed. Harborfest wasn't formed. That's what they're saying, to particularly celebrate that. So I guess that's up to interpretation of people and historians, and depends on what you look up. But what I saw was, that's not particularly true, even though historically that did happen during the slavery days, but it wasn't formed to celebrate that. And that's where people had problems with it, even before it fell in conjunction with Juneteenth. And that's why it raised some eyebrows this year, because you having Juneteenth starting off the weekend, and then you're going to celebrate the trafficking of slaves to the area and calling it Harborfest. And they sort of using the Harborfest name, but it's pretty much now called Ship Sale 2050, which also is celebrating 250 years of the country of United States. So all that's included, but it's fair to say that people might be upset because you're getting different versions of historical facts. It's just the timing of it, that has people confused about why would we celebrate the trafficking of slaves, especially during the same time when we celebrating the freedom of slaves, that on Juneteenth, which is a national holiday now, which was delayed the freedom of the slaves in Texas after they had already been freed. The owners in Texas didn't let the slaves know that that was the case, so it went on significantly longer before they had to force, with troops, and a lot of them were black troops. Uh, these slave owners to free the slaves. You know, because you've seen you've seen historical uh, readings about they were planning on trying to move their operations of slave ownership to Mexico, so they wouldn't be affected by that. But before they could do that, the troops came in and made sure that the slaves knew that they were no longer in captivity, and so that's why they celebrate Juneteenth, and it's a national holiday. So I guess it all depends on. I would challenge the people that still question that just to look at different resources or sources of information about the history of Harborfest, the name of Harborfest, and being a festive event, just to make sure. But what I've seen so far, and I plan on investigating it more and looking at other sources. But my main source this time was some historic, uh, historic uh, teachers or professors from Norfolk State University here in the city of Norfolk. So I can trust that they really studied the issue and come up with facts. And what I told you earlier about Harborfest being created to celebrate that part is not true. We don't know the real intent of some of the people that formed it back then, but I don't think that they would do something like that. But you never can tell. But they are saying that it wasn't formed to celebrate that; it was just formed uh, to celebrate the the entrance of tall ships because it was a main waterway for years, the Elizabeth River, and it's how both cities, Portsmouth and Norfolk, got most of their commerce, from ships coming in the river. And it's a deep river, so even I've seen aircraft carriers pass by from the local naval shipyard, Norfolk Naval Shipyard. So it's a deep waterway. So it was a major pathway in order for ships to come through and bring in supplies. And I'm sure back during the slavery days early on that they did bring in slaves through here or they passed through here. And a lot of them, because Portsmouth has a history of, if you dive deep into the Portsmouth history, of having a large amount of slaves here in this city. And it goes even further than that, having public displays of slave beatings on Court and High Street, where we used to have a Confederate monument for years that was torn down by citizens, angry citizens that were tired of waiting for the city to remove it. But anyway, that's another story. But thought I'd come on and tell you about that. And if you're in this area this weekend, make sure you come to Norfolk or Portsmouth. I think during the weekend, Patty LaBelle and Sister Sledge are supposed to be on the Norfolk side. And of course, the Portsmouth side will have some entertainment. As well. So, and they have a ferry that runs back and forth between the two cities, so you can enjoy both cities. Both cities will have something to offer. So, if you're in the area, or you're coming down to visit some family members, or you live here already, and come down this weekend to the foot of High Street. It's called High Street Landing, and if you get on High Street and ride all the way down to the river till you can't go anymore, you're in the right place. And there's plenty of parking in the parking lots. within walking distance of the events area location. So just come down and uh, enjoy the fellowship with fellow Portsmouth residents and Hampton Roads residents who probably be coming down to, as well as enjoying the other side of the river, Norfolk. Of course, I'm going to advocate for Portsmouth side because I'm a Portsmouth lifetime Portsmouth resident. So I'm going to advocate that you come there and enjoy uh, uh, a quiet, entertaining weekend in the city of Portsmouth, but also venture over to Norfolk and support them as well, our sister city. So just wanted to kind of clear that up, but if it didn't clear it up, it's gives you food for thought, and maybe you can do further research to figure out what exactly Harborfest meant. But that's what I put in, and I asked the question, was Harborfest, you know, a slave event, and they came out immediately and said no, but no, it wasn't. But if you go back in history, slaves were probably brought down the Elizabeth River and let off here in Portsmouth and probably further on down into North Carolina. So, all right, everybody, thanks a lot, and we're here. This is James from Overton here on Substack, and so glad to be here and being able to talk to everybody or the people who's watching and sort of build an audience here. Not a big national figure like some of the other people that are on here, but I have something to say, from time to time. And I just want to bring some attention to the Hampton Roads area, particularly Portsmouth, Virginia, where I am. It's a very historic city, and if you don't know about it, you need to learn about Portsmouth, Virginia, because a lot of things started here that the uh, helped shape the country that you live in now. You come here and you visit Old Town. There's still some houses that were built during the colonial times, and just study the history of Old Town and the city of Portsmouth downtown, as well as the whole city. There's some historic neighborhoods throughout the city, and we have something to say. So make sure if you ever come in this area and close to Hampton, Newport News, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, or Suffolk, make sure you ride over to Portsmouth. We're right in the center of all those cities, and just come and check out. And if you have children, we have a world class children's museum that will keep them busy for hours while you take a break. Unless you try to, keep up with them, then you'll need a break afterwards. But come visit the Children's Museum, and we have a museum called the Colored Library that's historic here in the city. So a lot to that. So won't get into that. Maybe the next time I come on, I'll give a little bit more history about the city of Portsmouth. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time we come on.